Hey there, I'm Maggie,
And I'm Kate.
and this is our show, Honestly Though, with Maggie and Kate.
You're listening to season 1, where we're having more of the honest conversations that you won't find in corporate American settings or among polite company.
Every Wednesday for the next 10 weeks, we'll talk openly about common experiences that affect people at work and in life, but aren't usually talked about in business as usual environments.
You won't find a highly polished show in season 1, but we can promise that you're getting the raw and honest perspective of two solopreneurs who outgrew the status quo and are committed to thriving in this next season.
And the most important part is we're not really interested in talking at you. We want to talk with you, so you can join the conversation in the comments or send us a conversation starter for a future episode, and you can find all the ways to get involved in the show notes.
All right, let's get to it. So I am super excited because we are talking about dishonest harmony today.
Yes, which is a somewhat new term to me, but the concept immediately made sense and was like, yeah, I have a million experiences around that. So,
Yeah, it's actually a pretty new term to me as well. I have never heard of it until over the weekend. One of my favorite YouTube creators, her channel, she has two channels, Park Rose Permaculture and Park Rose Resistance. She did a video over the weekend about dishonest harmony. And then that sent me down rabbit holes. I think her first video about it was like a year or two ago. And there's a lot of people that talk about this concept of dishonest harmony. It's really popular in like family therapy circles, like a lot of psychology circles is where you find this term mostly. And it's actually really fun because I brought the term up in therapy this week. And my therapist was like, yeah, it's, well, because I said to her, dishonest harmony seems to be like the default operating system of America right now. She's like, oh yeah, you're totally right. It's the 1950s personified. And my therapist is 84, which means she was born in the 1940s, which means she has the authority to speak about 1950s personified. And I was like, yay, having someone who was actually there say what I've been thinking, which is like, this really is like a generational thing. It's not just like people woke up one day and decided like, we want to live our life with dishonest harmony. It's like, no, this is learned behaviors, and it's related to this pendulum swing of like how we learn and experience the world and then make adjustments as people over time, which is really fascinating. So yeah, so I texted Maggie and I was like, can we please talk about dishonest harmony? I'm super into it right now. And she was like, yes, let's do it. So that's what we're
because
doing.
I also have a million therapy stories as well as work stories around the topic. Like when you said it, or like when I was originally, we were texting yesterday, I kept thinking of when I was doing therapy. I mean, I've been in and out of therapy my whole life, but a couple of years ago in therapy, I don't remember what exactly I was talking about, but I was dealing with some kind of like avoidant person. And I was like, I'm just so frustrated because I feel like I'm so confrontational and like I'm such a conflict. Like I always bring the conflict and it's always me. And she pointed out like, well, that's because authenticity means so much to you that like all the people you're interacting with are trying to sweep things under the rug and not have everything out on the table, and like they're not seeking a real like solution or like a resolution for it all. They just want it to go away.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sit like that. I can't do that. Like
Same.
if we got in a fight and you were like, let's just sweep it under the rug, we will fizzle out our friendship because I can't do it. Like it just feels so surface then to me. And so like you're saying, the whole country, like I saw a video the other day about like, I'm not oversharing, I'm just sharing. And we're in such a non-vulnerable state of the world right now that even just sharing feels like oversharing to people.
Totally.
All of that ties in my brain right now where I'm like, yeah, because we're all being so dishonest in the like hopes for peace, and there's no peace. So
right.
I could rant forever.
I love it. So for those who are listening who have never heard dishonest harmony before, I just did a quick Google search and will share a few of the things here. And then I'll also link to that video because I think Angela Baker does a really good job of describing it. But so as we were just talking about, it's a psychological dynamic where individuals maintain a facade of peace in order to avoid discomfort, prioritizing appearances over authentic conflict resolution. So it's really about preserving short term comfort at the expense of long term actual peace. And so you see it with problems being swept under the rug. It's all about suppressing true feelings, trauma, or difficult topics so everything looks fine on the surface. And rather than engaging in constructive conflict, one or more parties simply demand that people just manage their own distress all by themselves and keep the peace, even though distress is never created in a vacuum. So often interpersonal relationships are interpersonal. They're not just one person. So resolving them with just one person is really hard. And so, yeah. And then in terms of like why it's damaging and why it's harmful, so it leads to like a lot of emotional invalidation. So, like, people who do raise their feelings are often dismissed, an erosion of trust. Like, if I've found in lots of relationships, like if you can't talk about what's true, then it's really hard to actually trust because you're just building upon a foundation of lies. So how is trust possible? And
Yeah.
then it also leads to a lot of built up resentment because the feelings don't actually go away and the problems don't ever get resolved. What you're left with is just this buried tension and resentment that everyone is feeling, but no one wants to talk about. So that's like a high level primer of what dishonest harmony is. And I want to talk about it in terms of the world of work too, because while it's really common in family dynamics and often talked about in family dynamics, it is also the central theme of my work life and my burnout and my mental health experiences in corporate. I never had a name for it. I never realized how harmful it could be or any of the damaging things about it. I, for a really long time, believed it was the cost of having peace. And but I've learned through experience that actually that's not what delivers peace. And even though it's a little more painful in the short term, I guess in the long term, it has been so much more freeing and healthy. So,
Yeah. I gotta be honest, I kind of have a curveball story because we talked a
okay.
little in advance for this. And for
Uh-huh.
anybody listening, I literally was texting Kate and I was like, is it legal to share this story? Because I don't want to get in trouble by a previous employer. I have a totally different story, a totally different employer coming to mind now.
Okay.
But I once worked for a place where within your first week, part of your orientation almost, that there was like I don't know if it was an online form or just a paper form, but there was some kind of form around like how was conflict handled in your family? What was your role? And like it literally asked me all of those like family therapy type questions
Yeah.
because they were painting into the picture of like, we need to understand how you deal with conflict so that we can meet you where you are and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Looking back, no one met me where I was at any point and they just like exploited the role because like I
Mm,
just said, I'm the one who will, in my family too, I'm very different than myself at work. So putting my family dynamic on paper, that's not who I show up as at work. But the
yeah.
whole thing was so
Wow.
like, to call back to previous episodes, like I was drinking the Kool-Aid so hard and I'm such a psych nerd that I thought that was so cool. I was like, wow, they want to understand me and like blah blah blah.
Mhm.
No, that was my first experience in a very toxic workplace. It was that company. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, oh my God, I basically just handed over the formula to exploit me week
Wow.
one and
Yeah.
thought that I was like doing myself a service, but that place was all about making sure those above you were happy, and
Yep.
that's probably maybe we could twist this into, like, professionalism is often defined outside of, like, LinkedIn audiences as, like, being emotionally and, like, holding the emotional space for your superiors, basically, like, that's
Yeah.
what professional means is, like, keep
Yeah.
your emotions in check, that has nothing and,
Yeah.
like, hold everybody else's emotions. And
Yeah.
that kind of feels like it fits in with the dishonest harmony too, because why is everyone else's emotions matter except me as the pleb on the corporate ladder, or depending what meeting you're in, you're not the CEO, so shut up. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
ugh, drives me
Yeah.
nuts.
Totally.
I
So it's
can't believe
interesting because when you said that at first, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so like what an emotionally intelligent organization. Like that is so great."
that's what they want to be perceived as.
Yeah, totally. But it doesn't like if you're collecting the information and but then not following through and making anything useful out of it and actually doing something with it and instead just using it as like an in with someone to figure out how to emotionally manipulate them, that is not
It's
that is
just dishonest. Like, maybe not the harmony piece, but it was presented as like, here's how we're gonna keep the peace and make sure everybody feels heard and all that, and everybody's happy. And really, it was just like a very dishonest way to keep.
yeah,
We kept it was like giving them more ammo to have dishonest harmony,
yeah,
because
totally. Yeah.
no one was gonna speak up. Like, the only time somebody did speak up, my boss literally almost stood on the conference table yelling across the table to somebody when they called something out before. Like, this place was crazy
Yeah.
toxic.
Wow.
But again, week 1 impression was like, "Wow, they
Yeah.
care and they know what they're doing, and, like,
Yeah.
they're here for the people."
Wow, that's
Oh.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, I definitely
Same.
think we need to dive into this, and I think this is like a really good because I'm like you said, like at first, like until you learned better through experiences with that company, it didn't feel wrong. In fact, it felt right. It felt
It
like that
felt
company
really
was
good.
doing
I felt
something
really seen.
totally. And so I think that's been my experience too is that like I would guess there is no one listening to unless they have been like the most luckiest person. Well, but actually, that's probably
How
not
does it
true.
feel to be God's favorite?
There's probably people. I mean, just because, and I haven't researched this or whatever, so I don't know. But my gut tells me and my therapist agrees with me that it really does feel like the default setting, the
Yeah.
default operating system across America right now. And my hunch is that there are very few people that would be listening to this podcast who have never operate or who have never had to experienced this before. Like, I think everyone in one way or another has had to operate within this expectation of dishonest harmony, whether it's in their family or at work, and probably at work. It's just so pervasive. It's just how we move as a culture right now. And I think it's so what I would tell people listening to this is think about do things within this sound familiar? And it's no it and what can you do about it if you do learn about it? Because the other thing is like dishonest harmony, especially in workplace settings, it's not like a family. Even if the workplace says they're a family, they're not. They can fire you at will for any time. So like if you don't perform dishonest harmony when the culture demands dishonest harmony, then you will have real consequences of that. And for a lot of families, that might mean you don't have health insurance now. You can't afford to put food on your table now. So you can be it's just important to understand that this operating system exists and also to have a lot of empathy for people that are playing within that system because right now in the world of work there are real risks if you don't play along.
Yeah. I think you just made me realize why I always felt like I was gonna be fired, even though I was a one of one on my team and, like, I always did my job well. Like, on paper, I was definitely a top performer and everybody told me so all the time, but
Yeah.
I could not shake this feeling that, like, I don't know. I knew I was, like, questioning the status quo too much. Whether it was in my head or out loud, questioning, like, varied, but, like, I knew I wasn't feeling the corporate vibe the way they wanted me to. Even
Yeah.
where I was, like, chugging the Kool-Aid and trying to force other people to drink it, and I was like, "No, this is gonna be good." It was more
Yeah.
like I could see the potential. I wasn't, like, proud of where we were. I just believed that it was going to be better. And now
Yep.
I'm realizing, no, it literally, at least for me, was never gonna get better because I'm like I said in the beginning, I'm just so wired to
Yeah.
bring things up and call
Yeah.
attention to things that others are like, we could just ignore that. And I'm like, I can't. I
Yeah.
literally can't. And if I
Yeah.
can, it's only temporary. It will
Yeah.
surface again because
Yeah.
that's human nature, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't repress everything forever.
Yeah. Totally. There always comes a point where reality and underlying resentments or underlying fears or insecurities or whatever crash and meet.
Yeah.
And when that happens, um, that's when you learn what's true. And then that's when you experience the consequences of that truth. And so
Yep.
I think that's what it, I think that's why I felt so
Mm.
insecure in corporate for so long too, is because I understood that, but I didn't have the language for it. I didn't
Yeah.
know that that's what it was, not conscious. It was buried beneath. And for me, what allowed me to recognize it and to name it was watching it happen to my husband. So
Mm.
I he was working at one of Elon Musk's companies, and he was put into multiple situations, which I won't go into, but everyone can, everyone just take me at my word or go hunt through my LinkedIn stuff and you'll find it. But he was put into situations where he had to make a choice between his safety, his colleagues' safety, his integrity, or performing dishonest harmony with Elon Musk and his
Yeah.
cronies. And my husband is the kind of person who prioritizes his safety and his colleagues' safety and his integrity. And I remember him saying to me, I'm safe. I've been promoted here 3 times. I'm so talented. They call me Mitch the Machine. They love me. I can speak up and I can say, this is wrong. We need to be treating people this way. We need to be prioritizing these things. Um, and I'll be fine. They won't touch me. And I said to him, yes, they will. This is what they do. Like, if you do not, I didn't say it this way, but if you do not perform dishonest harmony, if you don't pretend that you're okay with the things that they're asking you to do, they will create a paper trail and they will fire you, because that's what they do to people in the most toxic corners of corporate America, which is
Yeah.
no secret. Tesla is one. That is how they behave. And so, and a lot of people didn't believe me. Like, a lot of people in my inner circle were like, oh, it's fine. He'll be fine. So I got a lot of like denial. Like, that's not actually going to happen. It's not that bad. No, corporate's not that bad. They don't actually treat people that way. Or on the other side, I got a lot of, well, he should just keep his head down. He should just mind his own business, just think about just himself and just do what needs to be done and just ignore it, perform dishonest harmony. And I was dissatisfied with both of those options, and he didn't believe that he had to do either of those options. And then we watched it play out over the year, and they did create that paper trail, and he was eventually fired, and it really sucked in the short term. Like, it really did. Um, we had to move. We had financial troubles. Like, there were a lot of short-term things that were really, really difficult. And also, in the longer term, he is much happier now. He is at a place where he is treated with the respect and dignity that he deserves. He doesn't come home from work every day feeling miserable. I don't worry about him and his safety when he goes off to work every day. Like, it's true that failing to perform dishonest harmony does hurt in the short term, but in the long term, it creates the kind of real stability and security and peace that is what actually people want and crave and need. And so that's why I care so much about it, because I think there are so many organizations who don't understand the emotional toll that this kind of behavior actually creates in the workplace and how it contributes to employee dissatisfaction, low engagement, burnout. And it's bad for business, because when you don't actually confront and face real problems because everyone's afraid, you don't actually find real solutions. And that's terrible for business. So, anyways, that's my soapbox about this.
No, I mean, I definitely agree. I'm like, obviously, I wanna know, I should go back and read all your posts. I was, like, following you and along with that story for the Mitch
Yeah,
like, the whole drama, but I definitely feel like there's things I missed and things that, like, we weren't super close yet, so I wasn't
yeah,
like, "Hey, tell me more," like,
yeah,
behind the scenes.
yeah,
Um, Now I don't know, my head's just swirling of, like it's, like, it kinda goes back to what you're saying before, like, it's just the default setting in our country, maybe
yeah,
the world, I don't know the whole world to speak on it, but
mhm,
at least in the US, it is 100% the default is to just choose your battles is what I've been telling myself in
yeah,
my adulthood. Like as a kid, I was always just a troublemaker. Then I like grew up a little and was like, well, now I'm gonna choose my battles, and that's that's how I am now. But the more I choose my battles, the more I realize I'm like I'm going against myself when I don't choose the
yeah,
battle. Depending, there are definitely
yeah,
some battles that are just silly, but like overall, if I'm choosing to stay quiet, I'm choosing to abandon myself in that moment, and that
yeah,
has been I've been rewiring that for myself, which has been making me like a little more outspoken, a little more confident to like just stand on business, say what I have to say, like not
yeah,
stress about it. But I'm definitely now, like I was texting the other day, I'm definitely now in this headspace of like, God, but this is gonna suck because I'm definitely gonna push people away. Like I know over the course of the next year or two, as I'm refining my voice and speaking out again and not letting the fear of,
yeah,
conflict come into play, I'm gonna lose a lot of people because they're not there yet and they're comfortable in that dishonest harmony and they
yeah,
liked when I was there with them and trying to pull
yeah,
them out, it's too much for them. And
yeah, yeah,
again, and then I'm at this crossroads where I'm like, okay, well, do I abandon myself to stay with my loved ones or do I abandon my loved ones to stay true to myself? And that's a shitty
yeah,
situation, but that's like I
yeah,
gotta do it because I want to grow and be a better person. But
yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
think about all that is like poor Mitch because like
yeah,
I totally can, like, picture him just being like, "No, I'm totally" like, and feeling, like, genuinely confident. Why not? He's a straight white man who moved up the corporate ladder, like, he should
mm,
be fine to say
yeah,
his opinions. He's the only
yeah,
one that
yeah,
we look to say his opinions safely,
yeah,
and he can't even do it.
yeah,
So, I won't get
yeah,
on my whole rant yesterday. I wanna rant yesterday about, like, it's not a race war, it's not an age war, it's not all these wars, it's literally a class war. Like, it's literally
100%.
the rich, it's not any of these other things. They're just planting all these seeds, and that is such a prime example. Like,
Yeah,
even Mitch couldn't say his piece. Like, what?
yeah,
It's
yep,
insane.
yeah, totally, and
But
I
like you
think
said, it's the
there's
default. It's so normalized. And
it's
how do
so
we
normal.
change that?
It's so normal. It's the social contract. I mean, like,
Yeah.
the people in positions of authority, like, there's also, like, power dynamics and authority that comes into play here.
Yeah.
And I really try really hard to avoid generalizing generations. Like, I try really, really hard not to do that because um it's not always fair, and it's often
Yeah.
really deflammatory and just and not helpful. But I do think in this particular case, and it's not a blame game. It's not like, okay, boomer, you suck at communication, get out of the way. No. Um, but when a lot of people that are in positions of power and authority today grew up, this dishonest harmony was what needed to be done in order for there to be widespread protection and prosperity. Like, people, I used to get really frustrated with people in the boomer and silent generation who would tell me to just like chill and be quiet and pick your battles and just don't speak out and whatever. But for them, that is how they navigated the world and that is how they got to where they are. And they they want future generations to have the same security and safety that they enjoyed. What I think a lot of people miss is that the rules are different now. The
Yeah.
the structures and the systems and the institutions have changed. And so that is um there's a woman, her name is Christina Green on LinkedIn. I will link to her stuff, and she talks a lot about these generational changes. And like what we're seeing right now is the younger generations who are realizing like that dishonest harmony actually isn't effective anymore. It may have been before, but it's not effective now. And so we're not doing it. We're going to speak up and we're going to say things. But then you have these other generations who have the lived experience of, yes, it does work. And yes, it's how I got security. And yes, it's how I got here. And like, do it because it works. And so we're having this clash of the minds right now. And nobody's trying to fight or argue or have a clash of the minds. We're both just using our lived experience to do what we think is best to be done. And so it's causing a lot of problems. But I
Yeah.
do think that the future of corporate and the future of the world of work belongs to the leaders and the companies who are going to be able to speak openly about the things that really matter. So, like you talked about, like picking your battles. And I think there's a misconception with people. I know I have been misunderstood where people think like, you know, Kate just talks about whatever it is that's bothering her at any moment and she has no filter and she doesn't care about anyone else's feelings. And it's like, no, there's actually a lot of things that annoy
It's like I
me.
thought about that for like 5 days before I said anything.
Totally. Number one, yeah, I think about it and I'm really thoughtful before I say anything, but also there is so much more I could be saying and want to be saying that I don't. Like, I don't, it's not like every single thing needs to be brought up or that I need
Yeah.
to challenge authority on every single decision that they're making. But, there are certain things that I feel really strongly about that I will push back on. And just because I do that doesn't mean I'm negative or a cynic or going to complain about every single thing you do. So I think there's like,
Yeah.
there's a bit of that too, where it's like if someone has the courage and the tenacity to bring things up, we should start assuming that they're not just trying to be difficult or that they're not nitpicking every little thing, but that this is a thing that's really important to them. And we should approach them with curiosity and try to understand, like, why? Why is that so important?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, it's like hearing that last sentence, I'm like, yeah, it reminds me of the coach approach, which is like when you find yourself slipping into judgment, bring yourself back to curiosity, because
Mhm.
if you think you know something before you've asked,
Yeah.
that's bad. Like that's
Uh-huh.
not a good way to connect with people.
Yeah.
I also want to kind of go back a little and challenge you on, you said like the older generations kind of had to go this way in order to have the security they have now, but like,
Yeah.
is that true? Or is that just it
Well,
played out that way, so we see it that way? Because you said earlier in the episode, like, it's all about that short-term comfort, not the long-term betterment of the world, and I think, like, listening to you say, like, the whole thing, I'm like, so that's kind of played out that way, where they did what was best for them in the moment and their comfort and their success and security,
sure.
and then the rest of us are just fucked. And
Yeah.
they're just like, do it our way. But like all of us, including them, can see that their way just causes further pain down the line. Like you're just basically like, if I have this can of pain that I don't want to deal with, so I'm just going to do dishonest harmony, I'm going to kick it to my child. And like, that's where I feel like the generational trauma never gets solved, is because it
Yeah.
just keeps, it'll be somebody else's in the future problem. I got to focus on me and my family, my security. And it's like, how can like I guess bring it back to today's world, like how can you and I don't have children, but your children, like how can we make more of a conscious effort to
Yeah.
undo this norm in society?
Yeah.
Because speaking out, and that, I feel like that's the most I can do, and I don't feel like it's enough. Like
Yeah.
I encourage people all the time to be honest and authentic and show up and be vulnerable, and like I'm working on doing it more and more, and I'm in therapy and all these things, but like I feel like I don't know. And then my mind starts spiraling around, like social media is also kind of a culprit, because a lot of us now feel more empowered to speak up. And then a lot of us also feel very judged and terrified. And like that's skewing perceptions too, where the
Yeah.
loudest voices seem like the truest. And
Yeah.
they're the ones potentially upholding some of these things. And I
Yeah.
just don't, I wish I had like a solution that I could like give our listeners of like, here's how you can try to fight this, because oh my god, my cat. It's never gonna go away, but sorry to everyone if you can hear the cat in the background. We're gonna try to cut it out, but
Mhm.
um I'm losing my train of thought now, but yeah, I wish I could think of something more than just like find your voice and use it, but like that's where my brain is just like that's all I can think to do, and that's all I've been trying to do. And to
Yeah.
my other earlier point, even at the expense of people I love and cherish and want to be in my life, if
Yeah.
they're standing in the way of me being true to myself, I have to choose me. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's the bad selfish. I think that's the good selfish. So
Yeah. So, okay. So to respond to your challenge here, did they have to do it that way? No. Was it effective in the long
But I
term?
mean, like, what would have happened if they did it the other way, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
well, I mean, but when I think about it as like this all started in the 80s. Sorry if you're listening and you love Ronald Reagan or whatever, but like, okay, it's his fault.
if you're listening and you love Ronald
So
Reagan, this might not be the podcast for you.
yeah, probably not.
Let's
And
be
so
honest.
yeah. Um, but like in the 90s, short term thinking about short term gains. I mean, this is how corporate works. It's like think about next quarter, short term gains, short term gains, short term gains. And for people that came of age in corporate America since the 80s, that actually worked for them for real, for them.
Yeah.
Like if you look at how much um boomers with higher education level attainment, how much wealth they have accumulated and adjusted for inflation compared to past generations and how much they had accumulated in the same amount of time, boomers have accumulated more by focusing on that short-term growth, short-term growth, short-term growth, and not caring
Yeah.
about the long-term, like just kicking the can down there. So for them, in a financial sense, it did work from a
Yeah, and I get why
security
then they
perspective.
encourage us because they just assume it's gotta keep working.
So
But in
they
my
assume,
head, looking at the bigger picture, I'm like, somebody has to like suck eventually. Like, it can't
yeah,
just be prosperous and prosperous and prosperous, and we're all sucking up all the everything. Somebody eventually will have nothing left.
yes,
And that's where I wish they would think bigger picture. I wish they would have thought bigger picture because
yeah,
now our generation's in this in between of some millennials are raised by boomers, some are raised by Gen X, but like still
yeah,
we're a weird generation. And then I don't know what's happening with Gen Z and beyond, but like I feel like the age of technology and all that too, social media is such a part of it because people are not like, I don't
yeah,
know. I'm thinking of people showing up online because that's like where my mind goes. It's like, well, we could all just speak up more and be honest and share more and blah blah blah.
yeah,
But then I think about how performative people are online and how like
mhm,
even me, who I'm trying to be my most authentic self all the time, I'll sometimes record something and watch it back and be like, I can't physically post it. Like I can't allow myself, and it's not even like that bad. I just like
yeah,
danced in front of the camera and was like, I just don't think I can't do it. And I'll like re-record this. Like it's stupid, but it is performative even when you want it to be authentic. So
yeah.
I don't
I
know
think,
how to like help us get back to our true selves and let that true self lead us instead of just living as a quiet
yeah.
little voice.
Yeah, I think social media is interesting and the prevalence of social media is really interesting. I am a parent of Gen Alpha, and a lot of my kids' friends have social media. My son is 12. Yikes.
Hmm.
Um,
So
I
they're technically not legally allowed to have social media.
Right. And my kids won't have social media
Yeah.
for as long as I can possibly make sure that they do not, because I think it is bad for mental health. And I do think that you're seeing with the younger generations, they talk a lot about Gen Z specifically, wanting to go more analog and wanting to get offline and having a lot of anxiety about feeling like they could be recorded at any time and whatever. And I feel like that is a form of resistance to performance, to being monitored, being observed, being perceived, as you say. Like I think there's definitely a tension there. And millennials are raising their kids. My kids don't know what dishonest harmony is. They will not, I mean, I'm sure they do. They will not live it. I will not allow
Yeah.
it. I do not, that is not how I move about the world. And that is not how I interact with them. And that is not how they are going to interact with me. And maybe someday they'll hate me for it. And be like, we need to go back to dishonest harmony. Who knows? Because
No, they'll just be us out in the world. Like, why is everyone else so unwilling to talk?
yeah.
It's
So
like,
I think that
sorry, I raised you to have a voice.
yeah, I think most millennials are raising their kids to have a voice. And so I think what we're going to see is over time, there is going to be less and less of this dishonest harmony, which is the
I hope
1950
so.
personified, and more of people just being. just being who they really are, and
Yeah.
saying what they need to say and confronting problems head on. I mean, let's face it, millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha, we have a lot of problems that nobody dealt with, and we have no choice but to deal with them because they are here, present among us, and we are going to have to live with them. I don't plan
Yeah.
on dying anytime soon. So, like, I'm going to have to figure out how to afford life and how to not live on a burning planet and all these things. And I want my kids to be better than have it better than me. And so that means I'm going to have to confront these things. I don't have time to pretend they don't exist. So
Yeah.
off we
Do you
go.
think it's gonna get worse before it gets better?
Um,
Like you say, your kids are kind of like in that generation shifting offline, but I
but
also think of like two things. I think of one, stupid meta glasses becoming really popular and things where I'm like, are people going offline, or are we just about to be even more surveyed for a little bit first?
yeah.
And then what was the other thing you mentioned? Um, ADHD lost my train of thought, so never
No,
mind on
that's
that.
okay.
I'll think of
I
it
can.
eventually.
Yeah. So you heard it here first. Honestly, though, with Maggie and Kate podcast, yes, I think it is going to get worse before it gets better. But I think the 1930s are going to be like a party decade, and we're going to have a lot of fun solving real problems.
The
And
2030s.
the 2030s, is that what
You said 1930s?
2030s, excuse me, the 2030s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's going to get worse in these next 4 years. And then I think the next decade, it's going to get better.
I thought of my other thought. When I moved to Denver, I remember going to a few concerts and being like, "Oh, I think Denver's concert scene," for anybody listening, I'm not talking about EDM. I know EDM has a big scene here. Y'all are the only ones who can have fun. I like hip hop and rap music, so I go to like Lil Wayne concerts and the whole crowd is just so boring. Nobody's hyped, nobody's dancing, nobody's into it. I wonder now, in The Weeknd too. The Weeknd did his big stadium tour that got like postponed for years, and I got to see him in Denver. There were 2 people standing up in the whole stadium, and I was one of them. Like, everybody was sitting the entire concert, and I wonder now if part of that is not just Denver sucks. No offense to Denver. I wonder if it is people are so afraid of being recorded, because how many times, I mean, you don't have TikTok, but, like, I'll scroll TikTok and I see people recording random people dancing and doing things in public
Yeah.
places all the time.
Yeah.
And even me being near the one girl who was dancing, I was like, I'm so grateful she's here dancing, because if I couldn't see her, I would also be sitting down because I don't want to be the only one at this concert standing up having a good time.
Yeah.
And even leaving that concert, I was like, man, are people recording us? Like, that's so awkward. And they probably were, because we were the only 2 people standing in the entire stadium. But like,
Yeah.
that's I don't know, my mind is like, is it gonna get worse first? Because I feel like I'm already seeing that like social decline where everybody's just so afraid to show up, whether
Yeah.
that's online, in person, one on one, like anything.
Yeah.
I hope I live to see the shift where we are all back enjoying the sunshine and smiling and
Yeah.
like having fun without the constant judgment of
Yeah.
everyone in the world seeing it
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
and being
definitely.
dishonest.
Yeah, I think that's definitely at play. I don't know. I wish I was a sociologist so I could say with certainty and study it and measure it and whatever. But yeah, I think that's definitely at play. And I really do think like even I have been exploring this, talking about this, talking with people in my own life about this for a year now. And the change that I've seen in a year is magnificent. And I think with something like this, where people are afraid to speak, and it takes a lot of trust to learn how to find your voice, you can't see it coming. You can't see the momentum building. You can't see people feeling more and more confident because they're doing it offline, away from the places where it's not acceptable. And so you
Yeah.
can really only see it underground, but it's coming. I do think you're right that it's going to get worse, but I am beyond confident that
We will live to see the
that
uphill.
we are going to live to see it because it's coming in the 2030s.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Um, I guess one final thought to end, or because we're kind of at time, but
Yeah.
I saw this post the other day about like, if you want to fix all your workplace problems, just hire somebody with autism, because they'll come in and notice everything and call it out. And I'm like, so shout out to all my neurodivergent friends, because I just think that we are both a blessing and a curse to the corporate world, because we see everything and we want to call it out.
Yeah.
But depending on how dishonest harmonizing your place is, like,
Yeah.
it's so true, but it's like we're constantly the ones pushed out for disrupting the status quo, because the pattern recognition is so strong, and we know we're right, and
Yeah.
people who make 5 times as much as you don't want to hear that you're right and they're wrong.
Yeah, totally. One more
So
thing.
shout out all y'all. We're doing it.
Yeah, totally. One more thing before we wrap up here. The book, The Canary Code, talks about this, and in the workplace specifically, and how there's so much opportunity because people on the autism spectrum, the neurodivergent community, we are not the only ones feeling this pain. We're just the ones who are speaking about the symptoms
Yeah.
the most loudly. And so if people can listen and we can act and respond, it will fix things not just for neurodivergent people, but for everybody else who's feeling it too, which is evident by the great resignation and the chronic massive levels of burnout and whatever. We can fix
Yeah.
these things. We just have to be able to listen, especially to those people who can recognize it first and are willing to speak about it first. And it's not even just, I'm not just willing to speak about it. It's also like, I can't not. Like,
Yeah.
me, I can't not. I can't thrive if I'm not. So, and I think that's true for a lot of neurodivergent people. So,
Yeah. I
okay.
feel like an unease if I don't
Yeah.
say, like, I have to get things off my chest, at least to
Yeah.
Neil. Like, I have to tell
Yeah.
someone. Otherwise, it just, like, it's like this nagging, like, rock in my chest that's like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going to go away unless you say the thing.
Yeah. And if I'm in a corporate setting feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this thing, that means my anxiety is always up to like a level 95. And I'm always like,
Yeah.
oh God, I can't say that. I can't say that. And then like one little thing happens and it pushes me over the edge and it makes it look like I'm like super dramatic or something. But it's like, no, it's like for me, not saying it causes such an extreme level of anxiety, and you might not be able to see it because I hide it well when I want to, but it makes me sick to do that. And at a certain point, you just can no longer do it, and it comes out.
Yeah.
So
Hence I rage quit because I just fucking snapped.
exactly.
And that wasn't even the worst place I've ever worked. So, I mean, it just built up over decades of my life. But
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Great
Okay,
episode. That was a really great topic. I'm glad you brought that up yesterday and that we decided to do this. I hope
Yay.
everybody enjoyed listening and, you know, we want to hear your thoughts always,
Always.
especially workplace examples if you're comfortable sharing.
Totally. 100%. Do it in the comments. All right,
Yeah.
people. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to Honestly Though with Maggie and Kate. We're being so honest about the fact that we really want you to join the conversation.
Drop us a comment, email us a question, or submit a conversation starter for a future episode. You can find out how down in the show notes. See you next week.